Well, Mike, we talked a couple of months ago and had an interview which you kindly agreed to. And I thought it'd be a good idea to have a bit of a catch up now and see where we are. I've noticed that you've been on social media quite a lot talking about the supply chain of things. And I guess that's probably one of the biggest issues at the moment, isn't it?
Absolutely is, yes. Yeah, when we spoke last time, which I believe was about the beginning of June, um, we weren't having any problems at all at that stage. And I think what was happening is that we were soaking up all of the stock that was in place before lockdown. Since then, it has got considerably worse, frankly, across all areas as well. So we're now experiencing supply chain issues across virtually everything.
So what are people saying to you as far as the supply chain goes? Is it just a matter of you having to wait on hearing from them, or is there a plan in place, or is it that they're just saying to you, look, you may have been getting it on a weekly basis from us, but now we're talking about 4 weeks hence, or how is it working?
It's a bit of a mix, really. I mean, where they can, to be fair to the suppliers, where they can, they will inform us where there are going to be shortages, and they'll give us as much notice as they can. But you have to remember, particularly with profile, is that there are a lot of different profiles that go into a window, and so the main ones, outer frame and sashes and things like that, everybody's on top of those, but then there'll be little infill strips that you don't think of quite as easily, and that's the one that runs out. You still can't make a window.
So this is obviously down the line affecting the installer, presumably who's waiting for his product,
Yeah.
and the homeowner at the end of that who is waiting for it as well. I'm guessing that the homeowner isn't so much of the issue, is it really? Because I would have thought that they were pretty used to it, or at least understanding of it being a longer lead time than normal.
I think so, yes. I think everybody does understand the situation, and I think everybody realises that this has been a very strange year. So things are out of kilter. There's also a bit of a buffer, because when everybody came back from lockdown, they were so busy that installers' order books and lead times that went out themselves, just purely because they hadn't got enough fitters to fit all of these windows. And I think because it's an industry-wide problem, as far as I can tell, so people are going to other people. Everybody understands what's happening because they're hearing the same story all over the place. And it is just something really that everybody is trying to work together to get through.
You say get through, but surely, where does this end? I mean, I'm not sure it does end, does it? If this COVID carries on as it is, we're obviously hearing not good news at the moment. If it's a worldwide problem, do you see any way through this in the future?
Temporarily, I think demand is going to drop. I think when we spoke last time, I said that business was through the roof. I couldn't believe how busy it was, and it couldn't possibly last. It would be impossible for it to carry on the way it was going. I couldn't have been more wrong, really. It carried on exactly the way that it was going, and just got more and more and more and more. And that, of course, has exacerbated the problem across the industry. We're beginning to see signs that it might be slowing down a little bit. Obviously, we've got towards the end of October, there's the end of the furlough scheme, so that might have an impact. I think the impact that will have is that demand will have to drop at some point. And when that drops, that will effectively give everybody room to catch up a little bit.
And that means next year is a big question, isn't it, really, as to, I mean, if we were sitting here and talking about it and saying, so how was 2021? You will have no idea at this point as to what next year's going to look like.
No, everything is so different now, and it's been going on for so long that I think it's just impossible to predict what's going on. You can look at the figures, and you can look at the graphs and say, okay, well, business has been climbing and climbing and climbing, and it's been sustained, so that's really good. If you were pessimistic, you could look at it the other way and say, well, that means that everybody's had the work done. So who's going to get the work done next year? There's so many different factors at play now that I think it's just really difficult to work out what's going on. So you just have to go with what's happening, make the best of what's happening, continue your marketing, continue maintaining your position, and sort of taking each week as it comes almost.
I mean, are you finding that you're actually working closer with people in the industry, not just your suppliers, but even competitors? Is there more sort of spirit of camaraderie in there and helping each other? Or is it still very much keep your head down and get on with your own business?
Again, a bit of both, really. I mean, definitely the industry has come together. There's a lot more talking going on. I mean, we talk to our competitors quite a lot anyway, and are on quite friendly terms with some of them. But yeah, I mean, in general, I think we are all in this together. So our attitude has always been, we're not scared of talking to competitors, and we've got our business, they've got their business. We're not threatened, we don't threaten them. It's that's how we operate. It's better to operate that way, no matter what the circumstances are.
But do you feel as if you're kind of isolated? I mean, we've got a number of trade bodies in the industry. Are they giving good guidance, or is it almost a matter of you really making up your own thoughts about things and how you're going to go forward?
I don't want to have a go at the trade bodies. So I know that sometimes they get bad press. The way I feel is that there was a lot of information coming out during lockdown and after lockdown. It's actually gone pretty quiet on that front now. That doesn't particularly bother me. We're fine, and we're confident that we can get through this ourselves anyway. So we're not really looking for support from trade bodies or anything like that. But I think in general, I'm not sure what it is that they could tell us, really.
No, and I think in fairness to the trade bodies, they can only get the information from the government. And to be fair, the government doesn't seem to kind of know what it's all about anyway. So they're only getting it as a third party anyway, aren't they, really?
Absolutely, yeah. And, I see messages from different trade bodies saying that we're talking to this group and we're talking to that group. And sometimes they're talking to the same group, and yet still we're hearing different things. I think you're absolutely right. I think the message coming from the source is confused. So how can they possibly untangle that? And how can they untangle that and then pass that on to people like us? I don't think they stand a chance, really.
Is it possible to get more automation into the process? I mean, we know everybody's got cutting centres and so on, but there must be a limit to how much you can automate. You always are going to need people in there, aren't you, to put things together? I presume there's no line that will actually manufacture the window without a person being involved in putting in gaskets or whatever.
Partly, yes. I mean, again, this is with sash window specific. So sash window manufacturers are generally much more manual than casement manufacturers anyway, certainly in big casement manufacturers. There's a lot more automation available to casement manufacturers. I mean, you've been to our factory before, but if you come to our place, the first half of our process is very, very high tech with machine centers, saw centers, that sort of thing. And then you could almost draw a line across the factory and say, as soon as you cross that line, it's no longer a PVC fabricator. It's more like a joinery because of all of the mechanically jointed windows that we're doing, and they're all handcrafted windows. So at that point, all the machinery stops, and then you just have a bunch of people with hand tools, effectively.
And so, you don't see that there's a way of making that different in the future? Do you think that's the way it's going to be into the future now?
That's the way that we make our windows, and it wouldn't benefit us to change the way that we make our windows, because it's a part of who we are. It's that's what makes our product high end. What we are doing behind the scenes is we're splitting production. So effectively we're trying to double what we do by having dual lines effectively. So what we're doing now, we can do exactly the same with another line. But obviously that takes an awful lot of investment and an awful lot of people and an awful lot of factory space, which we've managed to increase factory space over lockdown.
But that's a big risk, isn't it? As you say, it's going to take a lot of investment, not knowing what next year is going to bring. Quite a risk, isn't it, really?
Yes and no. We were going to be doing this anyway. I mean, these were in our plans last year. And they were plans that we would have been putting into effect this year. Now, obviously, everything stopped in March. But as far as we're concerned, yes, things are uncertain. But if you look at what we've been doing, we've been growing year on year for the last 10 years, but certainly for the last 5 years in particular. We are a much bigger outfit now than we were 5 years ago.
So that's kind of good news, isn't it, really? And it's pretty good for the future if you're looking in that way. I mean, next year is going to be an interesting one. I mean, suddenly we're going to have a fit show, hopefully.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you see that as, I mean, are you looking forward to a fit show, or are you kind of looking at it and thinking, well, if it happens, great. Otherwise, I wonder if it'll be done over Zoom or whatever. Will it be a sort of a digital exhibition? What's your feelings about that?
Personally, I'm really looking forward to it, and I really do hope that it goes ahead. We've always treated the fit show in the same way. We don't go out there and try and fill books up with leads. That's not what it is for us at all. For us, it's a way we get our customers along. We show our customers what we're doing. We just get to meet people. We get to talk to people. It is a great way for the industry to get together on a really big scale. And we can all have a look at what everybody else is doing. It's how the industry progresses, as far as I'm concerned. It's not a lead generator. So in that sense, if it goes ahead, we'll be there, and I'll be really, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think we all do. It'd be a good opportunity to actually get back face to face with people.
Yeah.
It's all very well doing Zooms and Teams and everything, but it's not quite the same, is it really? It's a good alternative, but it doesn't replace meeting people and talking to them directly.
No, we're doing on a more sort of retail basis. We're doing some virtual shows.
I mean, were they actually well attended by the public, or do you not know the numbers?
They've held one. I hope nobody from the fit show is watching, but you know what it's like when exhibition companies tell you what the visitors numbers are like. So they came on this one. They came back and they said, yeah, absolutely. There's loads of people turned up. Absolutely, loads of people turned up. You'll never know until you've exhibited yourself. Sorry, Nicky.
The biggest issue coming up now, you mentioned it earlier, and that is that we're coming towards the end of October. The furlough ends, and no one quite knows what that's going to do for the employee or the lack of employees, or just what is going to happen to those figures.
No, I think
that's got to affect really the buying public, hasn't it?
At some level, I think it definitely has to. I think, we've already seen outside of the industry in particular, we've already seen there have been quite a lot of redundancies. Certain sectors, hospitality, leisure, that sort of thing, have obviously been hit really hard. So there have already been an awful lot of redundancies, and I think there will be more at the end of the furlough scheme. I think that actually by phasing out the furlough scheme, that has softened the blow a little bit. I think if the original plan, when it was just going to end on October the 31st, and that was it, I think then there would have been a real spike. But by making employers pay a little bit towards it in September and a little bit in October and doing all of that sort of thing, I think it has actually sort of softened it and smoothed it out a little bit. It's all about who is made redundant. It feels horrible to talk about this, but when furlough scheme ends, if there are a lot of redundancies out there, then it will, what sectors is it in? Because that will then determine how much of an effect it has on our industry, because it may be in sectors that aren't big in home improvement.
No, I think that's right. I mean, and to be fair, the customer at the moment, I guess, is more towards the retired person or the person who's got savings and things, rather than young people who are starting out in life. But unfortunately, it's the young people who are probably going to end up being made redundant, isn't it?
I think that could well be the case. For us, we find that actually a lot of our end users are youngish families. Sort of second, third home type families. That's the sort of market that we do particularly well in.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, just very interesting as to see what it looks like when this all settles down, as to where the market really is, because I think we all presume it's people who've got some savings and things who are actually spending the money at the moment, as opposed to buying it out of earned income that's coming in each month. But I think and then of course it comes down to what the banks and things are going to do, how good they're going to be being on giving loans towards home improvements, what happens with the government with the green deal that's coming in. if that, I mean, that doesn't look as if it's going to affect us in any way, shape or form, does it really?
Not really, no. In fact, I think that boat has already sailed, really. We looked at it, we thought that there might be an opportunity there for some sort of heritage properties, conservation properties, places who are really struggling when it comes to energy efficiency. We thought there might be something there, and we have seen a little bit, particularly with our secondary glazing arm, that has seen some action as a result of it. But I think it was no shining knight coming in to save an industry that didn't need saving either. That's the thing. I don't think people weren't that bothered about it within the industry because we were all very busy anyway.
Yes, so that as you say, that ship has really sailed.
Yeah.
Where do you reckon then that we go from here as far as an industry is concerned? Is it more of the same? It's all going to depend an awful lot, I guess, on lockdowns and COVID and supply chains and so on. But you sound quite buoyant, really, for the future, certainly as far as Roseview is concerned. Is that going to go across the whole of the industry, or do you see sectors within there that are going to be worse affected than yourselves? I mean, you are specialists, as you've already said. Does that make it safer for you?
I think because we're quite high end, but we are high end, so I think that segment of the market is protected more. But no, I'm generally quite optimistic about prospects for the entire industry. It's definitely going to drop compared to where it is at the moment, but nobody expected it to be where it is at the moment. I think that there's enough business out there to keep this going through all of the current crop of problems, which has caught everybody out. We'll get over those problems, and once we've got over those problems, then I think actually it with a bit of luck, it will smooth out quite nicely.
But do higher prices come through the supply chain? If there's difficulty in the supply chain, are you also finding that prices of those materials coming into you is going up as well, and therefore you have to pass it on? How does that work?
They will be. Glass always goes up as soon as there's any sort of problem. The price of glass goes up, and that's happening now. And glass suppliers are trying to hold off, but they'll at some point they'll have to give in. We will hold off, but if too many price rises come in, then eventually we may have to do something. Prices are rising elsewhere as well.
Yeah, and it's just then a matter, isn't it, as to whether the end user can then afford that product that comes out of the end of it, the window. And I guess, though, that it is a product that people need and want. And if there is relatively small price rises, they can probably absorb them when it comes to it.
Absolutely. I think it's two different things, really. I think if you look at the big picture, then windows and doors fenestration is too cheap to the end user. It's treated like a commodity, and it's not. These are bespoke products that are going into people's houses. An awful lot of work and effort goes into them. You get guarantees that are longer than you'll get on a car. These are significant products, and they are sold too cheaply. But that's always been a problem. To be fair, that's I could have said the same thing 20 years ago, and I'll probably be able to say the same thing in 10 years' time. So there's that on one side. But then I think at the moment there is going to be probably a number of price rises. Everybody will hold off as long as they possibly can. I mean, we certainly will do that because it doesn't feel right to raise prices at the moment. When the industry is under pressure and lead times are going out, to be able to then write to people and say, "Oh, by the way, prices are going up," it's not the right thing to do. But those price rises will come and they will trickle through, and I think the market can absorb that.
Yeah, maybe there's an opportunity here for the prices to become a bit more sensible as far as the trade is concerned, and stop the race to the bottom.
Yeah,
I say that with a bit of a giggle in my because it's how do you ever stop that? Because it's always the competition, isn't it?
It only takes one person to lower prices across the industry. It takes a lot of people to increase them.
But that's really what it needs, isn't it?
I think so. I think for the benefit of everybody in the industry, from the suppliers at the top end of the chain to the installers, But installers absolutely need to need to make more money. Fabricators work on tight margins. Everybody could do with a bit more.
Yeah, no, I agree. Mike, good to talk to you as ever. Hopefully we'll catch up again in another couple of months and you'll still be smiling.
See what it's like then. Yeah, who knows? It's completely different this time to last time. So who knows what it'll be like next time.
Thanks for your time, Mike.
No problem. Thank you very much. Good to talk to you.